Hello, and in today's um, lesson, we'll be looking at if and else statements. Okay, so if and else statements are fundamental control flow constructs in programming that allows your code to make decisions and execute different blocks of code based on certain conditions. Okay, so basically, what they do is that they enable your programs, okay, your lines of codes to react dynamically to varying inputs, okay, and this makes your code more flexible and powerful, okay. So in the in my source pane, you would see I have this text, okay, and I said writing your first if and else statement, okay. So I want to basically explain what if if okay statement is. Okay, I said if, and then you insert a condition, and then inside the block of code you put what tasks should be carried out, okay. But before that, let me just explain what the if statement is, okay. So the if statement, okay, basically it evaluates a condition and only executes the block of code, okay. It only executes the block of code only if the condition is true, okay. But if the condition is false, okay, that block of code over here will be skipped, okay. And for else, okay, um it provides an alternative, okay. So for the else statement, if the condition evaluates to false and so the block of code over here is skipped, it is passed over, or it's passed onto the else statement, okay. So like I was saying, the else statement is more of an alternative block of code, okay, that will only execute a particular task if the condition in the if statement is false, okay. So um just to let you see the basic syntax of the if and else statement, okay, it is basically you typing if, opening a round bracket, okay, and in the round bracket your condition goes there. Now after that you open a curly bracket, and this is where the block of code comes in, and then we add the else, open a curly bracket, and the block of code comes in. So to explain, I'm saying if, so in the round bracket you insert the condition, okay. Now in the curly bracket, if the condition evaluates to true, then over here you would write what is to be done if the condition evaluates to true, okay. Now if the condition isn't true but it's false, okay, it means that this line of code, this block of code is going to be skipped because the condition evaluated to false, and then it will move on to the else statement. So else, over here you would write what is to be done, okay, if the condition if the condition evaluates if the condition evaluates to false, okay. So this is the basic syntax of if and else statements, okay. So um let me just give you an example. I have an example here, okay. For instance, what we want to do is that we have an object called a, okay, and in that object we have assigned a value of 51 into it, okay. So let me just run this so that now when we print a, we know that the object a contains a value of 51, okay. Now what we want to do, the activity we want to carry out, is that if a, okay, is equal to 50, we would like to add 70 to a, okay, and then return the results in a text format. It means that we need to write an if and else statement such that if a is equal to 50, okay, if a is equal to 50, then we must add 70 to a and return the results in a text format. Okay, so basically this is what we're going to do. Say if, okay, if a is equal to 50, and please, you should know why I brought a double equal to sign, because when we were looking at logical operators, we discussed that a single equal to sign basically means that you are trying to assign an element into an object, okay, but a double equal to sign really means that we are checking if a value is equal to another value. Okay, so we said if a is equal to 50, what should be done? What is the task that is supposed to be done? So we are going to write that inside the curly bracket. Okay, so we said we want to add 70 to a and return the results. Okay, so let's create an object called results, and in results, if a is equal to 50, we want to add a plus 70. We want to add 70 to it, and then after adding 70 to it, we want to return a text format of the result. So we'll say cat, okay, we could say a is equal to 50. Okay, this is what we want to return to the user. So a is equal to 50, and hence when 70 is added, okay, the result is, okay, the result is, okay, the result is what? The result of a being added to 70, or 70 being added to a, has been stored in the object results. Okay, so the final answer is in results. So we'll say if a is equal to 50, and hence when 70 is added, the result is result. Okay, the result is result because result contains the final answer. Do you see that? Else, what should we return to the user if what should we return to the user if a is not equal to 50? Okay, so what we can say to the user is that, sorry, a is not equal to 50. Okay, hence let's say I cannot um, let's say I cannot add 70 to it. Okay, so this is it. We're done with the if and else statement. Okay, we're done with it. So check the console. The moment I run this, okay, it says sorry, a is not equal to 50, hence I cannot add 70 to it. Why? Because over here a is equal to what? 51. Do you see that? In the object we created, okay, the object called a, the value is 51 and not 50. Okay, but we said in this condition that if a is equal to 50, then add a plus 70 and then return this output. Okay, else if a is not equal to 50, return this output. And you could see that since a is not equal to 50, it says what? Sorry, a is not equal to 50, hence I cannot add 70 to it. Now how about if we modify a and make it 50 now? So we run this, okay, and then now when we run this, it says a is equal to 50, and hence when 70 is added, the result is 120. Do you see how easy if and else statements are? Okay, so basically this is this is it for if and else statement. Okay, this is it for if and else statement. So I want us to try a second example. um, in the second example, we want to allocate grades to a score or scores of some students, okay, or a score of a student. Okay, let's say per the grading system, we're saying 0 to 50 is a D, 51 to 60 is a C, 61 to 70 is a B, and 71 to 80 is an A. Okay, so in this case, we can't just use if and else statement. Okay, what we can make use of is if and else if statement. Okay, so the else if statement is is typically used when you have multiple conditions to check, and you want to perform different actions based on which condition is true. Okay, so the purpose of this is that it provides you a way to chain together several conditional checks. Okay, and this will allow your program or your code to handle a wider range of cases. Okay, beyond just the normal if and else statement. So in this example, like the grading system, we looking at multiple conditions. Okay, we want to check first if a particular grade falls between 0 to 50. If it does, D is supposed to be allocated to it. Now if that same grade doesn't fall between 0 to 50 but it falls between 51 to 60, okay, then we should have C allocated to that. And if it doesn't fall here and it falls between 61 to 70, then B should be allocated to that score. And if it doesn't fall between that, then it means that um, and it falls between 71 to 80, then a grade of A should be allocated. Okay, so um, the basic syntax for if and else if is this. So if, the same thing, if, okay, and then we open a curly bracket, and then here instead of else we write else if. Okay, then we open another bracket, and we now open a curly bracket. So remember I said if we are evaluating multiple conditions, okay, so it means that if, let's say, this the grade is between 50 to sorry, 0 to 50, okay, then we can say, we can put that first condition here, that if the grade is between 0 to 50, okay, allocate D. Else if the grade is between 51 to 60, okay, do that. Else if the grade is, do you see that? So we are evaluating multiple conditions, okay, to 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 make sure that once the object, or yeah, the object you are trying to subject to the if and else statement at a particular line of code evaluates to be true, then that particular if or else if statement can be executed. Okay, so like I said, this is just the basic syntax. Okay, so I'll leave that here, and then now we start with the example. Okay, so the first thing we have is 0 to 50. Okay, so let's create an object called grade. Okay, and in the object called grade, let's say a student scored 65. Okay, so let's run this and store it in ours memory, ours environment. um so now we know that the student has scored 65. Okay, and per what the grading system we have here, the person is supposed to score a B. Okay, but assuming we didn't know that the person's score was 65, okay, how are we going to go about it? So instead of just if it was a manual work, we would have just said, oh, okay, it's 65, so it's a B. but in this case we're going to write the if and else if statement. Okay, so we'll start with the first one and then end with the final thing. Okay, so what we want to do is that we said if what is the first condition? So if the grade, okay, is, let's say, less than or equal to 50, okay, what should be done? So we could say cat the we could say the grade for this score is, okay, the grade for this score is, let's say, it's a D. Okay, so we could leave a line and then put that there. Okay, so the grade for this score is, let's say, a D. Okay, now the next thing, so we are done with this, so let's move on to the next condition. Else, okay, else if grade, okay, else if grade is what, is greater than or equal to 51 and less than or equal to 60, okay, we need to print a C. Okay, so if grade is greater than or equal to 51, okay, and grade is less than or equal to 60, okay, what should we uh, um, bring out? What should be the output? So we'll say cat. Okay, we'll say cat. Let me just space this up a bit. We'll say cat. Um, the grade for this score, the grade for this score is, okay, the grade for this score um is a C. Is that okay? It's a C. Good. Now the next condition, else if, okay, so let me just pull this thing down here so that we could correctly see what we're trying to do. Okay, so else if, so we've done the first one, we've done that of the second one, we're moving on to the third one. So else if grade, okay, else if grade is um, greater than or equal to 61, okay, greater than or equal to 61, and grade is less than or equal to 70, okay, what do we need to do? You see how easy this is? So what do we need to do? I don't want to write this thing again, so I'll just copy and paste. And over here we said we need to allocate a B to it, so I'm just going to change the C to B. Okay, now we go again, the final one, else sorry else if, okay, the else if the grade is else if the grade is greater than or equal to 71 and, okay, less than or equal to, sorry, and grade is less than or equal to 80, okay, what should be done? Okay, so the same thing, what should be done, I'll just paste it here. We'll say the score is what, an A. Okay, so remember our grade is 65, right? And per the grading system we have here, we know that 65 is supposed to be a B. So now let's run our if and else statement and see if we're going to get a B. Okay, so the moment we run, you could see in the console it says the grade for this score is B. Now what if the person's score is, let's say, 6? Okay, now the person's score is 6. Okay, so now let's run the if and else statement and see what is going to be. It says the score for the grade for the score is D. So I hope you've now seen, okay, how if and else if statements work. Okay, we could do this for a lot of students. Okay, let's say if we have a table of students with columns, let's say students names in particular columns and then their scores, we could write if and else statements for grading those students. Okay, but then we'll have to um, come up with something that will help us iterate over the grades of students over and over again, and that is the next thing we'll be looking at, which is loops. Okay, good. So I want to give a third example, and then I'll call it uh, a period. Okay, so the next example, which is example 3, what we want to do is that um, let's say we want to sample 10 genotypes. Okay, we want to sample 10 genotypes, and those genotypes, those 10 genotypes we want to sample are going to come from uh, these major genotypes. So capital A, that is a homozygote. Let's take that as a homozygote dominant genotype. Then we have capital A, small a, that's going to be a heterozygote, and then small a, that is going to be um, a recessive homozygote. Okay, so this is what we want to sample. This is the data we are going to sample from, and we're going to sample 10 genotypes. Now what we want to do is that after the results are given, if there are any, let's say, recessive genotypes present, okay, we would like to um, know the count. Okay, we like to know the count, and then on top of that, we want the text output to be that we want the text output to tell us that there are, let's say, recessive homozygotes present. Okay, so we want the text output to be that there are um, there are recessive homozygotes, and the count is, okay, and the count is blah blah blah. Okay, so we want to do this subjected to the if and else statement, but basically we're not just going to look at if a recessive homozygote is present. We also want to see the count for that recessive homozygote. Okay, so now let's sample our genotype. So we'll create an object called sampled genotypes. Okay, so an object called sample genotypes, and we're going to use the sample function to sample the genotypes. Okay, so in the sample function, our x is going to be the data. Okay, so the data is capital A, comma, capital A, small a, and then a comma, small a. Okay, now let's take the next argument. To take the next argument from this function, we just hit the tab key. Okay, so we head to the size. The size we are looking at is what? 10. So we're going to assign 10 here. Then we hit the tab key to take the next argument. So we're going to replace. Now what replace basically means is that once the sampling is done, would you prefer that the the elements that was sampled, okay, should then be replaced again? Okay, so for this one we're going to set it to true, because we want each element that is taken to be resampled again. Okay, the size of our data is just 3, so we need to make some adjustments. Okay, and then we can take the next argument as well, which is probability. Okay, but in this case I don't really need probability. You can use probability. Okay, you just let me just use it. So probability, we're going to set probability to, let's say, 0.5 by 0.5. Okay, by 0.5. Okay, we're setting probability to this as this. Okay, so now let's run. Now the moment we run, sample genotypes have been created. These are our sampled genotypes, 10 of them. Okay, now for reproducibility sake, we'll need to set seed. Okay, so that 1 2 3, so that anytime we run this code again, we'll have the same thing. Okay, so we'll set the seed and we'll print sampled, we'll print sample genotypes. Okay, okay, so if I should, now that I have set seed, if I should redo this, you would see that it's the same. Nothing has changed from the sorry, nothing has changed from this and this. Nothing has changed in both of them. Good. Now what we said we wanted to do was to check if any of the sample genotypes contains a recessive homozygote, right? So if any, okay, of the sampled genotypes, okay, is equal to small a, small a. Okay. What did we say we want to do? We want to first find the length of those recessive homozygous genotypes. Okay, so to do that, that is what we're going to write in this space. Okay, so to check the um, the length, okay, or the number of small a in the sample genotypes, what we're going to do is that we're going to call the sample genotypes, as you know. Then we check in the sample genotypes which ones are equal to small a. Now when you run this, we're going to get logical statements. Okay, so false, true, false, false, true, blah blah blah. Okay, but our main interest is to see those elements that have been evaluated to true. Okay, so to do that, we'll need to wrap this inside the parents object. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this from here. So we're going to take it from the parent object. Okay, we're going to subset the parent object, and then we now paste this here. Okay, so that this time when we run, we now have the actual genotypes, as you can see. Okay, so we want to check the length of this. So to do that, we're going to pipe this result, this output, okay, into the length function. Okay, this way. You could as well just wrap this in the length function. You could have just brought the length function and wrap this into the length function, but we just decided to pipe this. Okay, so yeah, now that we have this, if I should run here, you would see it says that the length of small a is 4. Okay, now the results that has been given needs to be stored in an object. Okay, so that we can now return that object to the user. Okay, so now let's create an object called count, and we're going to store this in count. Okay, we're going to store the results in count. So what do we want to return to the user? What we want to return to the user is that we said there are recessive homozygote genotypes and the count is, okay, so that's what we're going to return to the user. I don't want to type, so I'm just going to copy it and paste it here. So there are recessive homozygote genotypes, and the count is what? We know that the count is 4, but we can't write 4 here, okay? It won't be professional to do that, okay? So we would say, and the count is count. That is the object storing the value. Is that okay? So the count is count. Do you see that? Now, what do we want to tell the user in case there are no small a in the sample genotypes? Okay, what we want to return to the user is that else we'll say so sorry, or we'll say else sorry, there appears to be no recessive homozygotes. So homozygote genotypes in sampled in the, let's say, in the sampled genotypes. Okay, so now observe the console. The moment you run, see what happens. So you can see that it says there are recessive homozygote genotypes and the count is 4. Okay, just like we saw when we ran independently. Okay, so this is where I would end the tutorial session on. If you have any questions or you feel probably you can suggest better ways for us to have these tutorial sessions, you could leave it in the comment section. Okay, so thank you very much for joining once again. Kindly go through from where we started, go through. If you have concerns, like I said, you could make it known, and practice, practice, practice. See you in the next video. Bye.